Hello, my future RN. So you have finished nursing school. Look at you go. All right. So what are some things that you have to do before you can sit for your exam? I'm going to go over perhaps your top 5 things that you must do before you can sit for your exam. So stay tuned. So welcome back. Let me start off by saying this. If I could offer you one generous piece of advice to get ready for your exam, it would be this. You must have an actual prep plan. Not any old plan. This plan has to be a SMART plan, kind of like your SMART goals, right? And then you have to work that plan. You have to evaluate that plan, and if need be, you have to tweak that plan. Okay, so underneath your prep plan, because you have to have one, here are our top 5 things that you must do. Number 1, you have to have rest. Your SMART plan, your prep plan is not a SMART plan if you don't include rest periods. So I don't recommend studying 7 days a week. Again, if that's your MO, if that's how you operate and it works for you, I wouldn't change it. But for most of us, you want to make sure you always put a rest day in there. Self-care is just as important. And if you're preparing to be a nurse, then you understand the importance of being holistically cared for, right? So include your rest periods. But within your study days, you also want to include even 15 minutes for every 90 minutes of study that you do. Our brain doesn't truly stay concentrated beyond 90 minutes. So you might be fooling yourself if you're doing burners of 5 hours at a time without breaks. Number 2, you have to be okay with embracing your textbook principles. Now remember, in the NCLEX world, it is a big ivory tower world. It's perfect, right? The NCLEX is not interested in assessing whether you remember what's done in your current workplace, your last workplace, the place you're going to work in next. They want to know that you understand what the evidence supports, right? So one surefire way to do that is to make sure that you are sticking with the textbook responses. You can't know textbook responses if you don't actually look at the textbook. But here's the good part of it. You've just finished nursing school. You proved that you know what's in the textbook. Now let's just start practicing based on that and only that. There's some things that you'll just have to know. For example, labs. There's just no other way around it. You just have to know. If we're talking about communication principles, you just have to know textbook what the evidence says you ought to do or ought to not do. So number 3. WWRND. You have to know your nursing process. What would the RN do? This exam is strictly about the RN. Will there be times when they want to know what the physician wants to do or what the CNA wants to do? Yeah, but only by the eyes of the RN. So here's another follow-up to embracing your textbook principles. Your scope of practice is all textbook. Stay in your scope, stay in your lane, but you have to know what that lane is. Number 4 thing that you need to do is simulate. Every time you practice, every prep session you have, you want to make sure you're including even a small number of questions that you are doing strictly under exam conditions. You're pretending this is the test, right? It could be 5 questions, it could be 75 questions, heck, it could be 150 questions. Just know that you're going to do it just like you would in the exam. You would know at what points you need to take a break in the exam. You would know that you don't want distractions. You're not going to have your phone because you wouldn't have it in an exam. You're not going to have an extra computer screen. You're not going to have people around you having conversations. You're going to be alone, focused only on those test questions. Right? And then before your exam, within 7 days before your exam, you want to do an all-out, full-out simulation, meaning no less than 75 questions, complete exam conditions, even if it means going to a small room at your library to just make sure that you're doing a dry run. You want to give yourself enough time, at least 7 days, because you want to be sure that if there's something that you need to tweak, you have a few days to either tweak it or adjust your end game, meaning adjust your testing. And then number 5, you want to show up or plan to show up for your exam date as your best version of yourself. You want to be on point. How will you know that you're on point? If you've been working your plan, then you will know at what point you have done everything that you can do to be prepared for the exam. It's not like when you were in nursing school and 2 seconds before that exam started, you were still trying to review things. What did that do to you? Caused a lot of anxiety, made you so nervous that you probably blanked out over your first few questions. And did it really help with your score? So let's be realistic with our plan. The day before your exam, you want to plan for a rest day. You want to make sure that at least 12 hours before that exam, you have taken some time, set aside that time to just relax. Self-care is important. Remember, you want to show up as your best version of yourself. Let's go over again the importance of having a prep plan. You must have a prep plan. You can't go in this thing willy-nilly. This is serious business. So number 1, make sure that you're getting rest. Number 2, embrace your textbook principles. Number 3, make sure you know your scope of practice and you're applying that. And then number 4, simulate. You have to simulate your exam conditions before that day. Number 5, last but definitely not least, you want to show up your best version of yourself for your exam. Hope you found these tips helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more NCLEX tips. Bye.